Hi, it's Penny here. Welcome to another reading vlog. This week, I thought I would try and match my reading to kind of like fall vibes, even though I don't usually read particularly seasonally. And also at the moment here in New Zealand, it's actually spring. So we're getting a lot of rain at the moment, so it still almost feels like fall, but it's a lot warmer. For starters, and I'm not sad about that at all because I hated the coldness of winter and I'm very excited about temperatures rising again. I also like that when it rains, it's like everything's happy about it. The grass is growing, the flowers are growing, the trees are happy. Like my little nature girl heart is really happy about spring, and I don't know, I might change my mind in summer. It might be too hot, but at the moment I'm very happy about the improving weather. But still, Halloween is coming, and I had a few books on my TBR that I think kind of fit the vibe, so I'm going to do it anyway. Firstly, I want to reread The Fog. So this is a point thriller, like a YA thriller from, this one I think was published in 1989, but I first read it in 1990, and the rest of the series I guess was published in the 90s, which is when like I was 10 in 1990. So these have a lot of nostalgia for me, and I actually only put The Fog on my TBR for the month, but I think I'm going to try and fit in the whole series. We'll see how long it takes me to read one of these. I remember when I was a kid just like lying down on the floor. Can 45-year-old me lie down on the floor and read for an hour or two? Probably not without consequences. But I remember sitting down and just reading through all of this in like one go on the floor, like lying on the floor. I don't think we'll try that this time, but we might try and read through it all in one go. I mean, they're pretty short, and the writing should be easy to get through. So basically this series follows these children who live on an island, but then during the school year, once they're teenagers, they come to the mainland and board with this family, and then this is Christina's first year and things start getting like weird and spooky while she's there, but everyone kind of thinks she's overreacting. So I'll try and pick this one up later today, and we'll see how long it actually takes me to get through it, whether I can blast through it in one go or whether it takes me a few sittings. I'm honestly not sure. Then as well, I will need an ebook and an audiobook. So for ebooks, I was planning to read the second book of this Book of the Order series, which is like a fantasy series, but the magic is all based around ghosts, which I thought would have been great. However, the formatting for this on Libby is wrong somehow, so it can't transfer onto my Kobo. I'm not sure what the deal is. I was able to get the first book in the series onto my Kobo, but the second one isn't available in that edition. Anyway, I'll have to save this, I think, for next week, unless I manage to get through these all really quick. Then I could get into this, but that's doubtful. Instead, I do have the ebook for the Dawnhounds. This was not on my October TBR, but like there's mushrooms on the cover, and all the technology of the world is like fungus and biologically based. So I feel like mushrooms almost fits, right? Doesn't it? I think it does. I don't really know what this is about. I have read the first chapter, and it was something about this ship coming in and they'd been sent out to get these like biological weapons or some kind of biological materials that were suitable for military uses. But then something's gone wrong and half the crew is now locked in the bottom of the ship. That is definitely not the right word. But anyway, half the crew they've locked away or they've passed away, and the rest of them are just trying to get into the harbour safely. Completely unfairly, I keep expecting this to be a little bit like Gideon the Ninth because it's a New Zealand author and it's blurbed by Tamsin Muir, and I think it says somewhere, like it compares it to Gideon the Ninth in Black Sun, but honestly I have my doubts. I think that's probably not what it's like at all. Anyway, that's going to be my ebook. And then audiobooks, I'm already halfway through Tower of Thorns by Juliet Marillier, which is the second book in the Blackthorn and Grimm trilogy. This one, I don't know, is it fall vibes? Maybe. Blackthorn is kind of like a wise woman with some kind of magical leanings. I think you could almost consider her to be like witchy, but in a nature-ish way. But also she was initially in prison with Grimm because of reasons, awful men reasons. But then she made a deal with the Fae that let her escape along with Grimm, but the deal is that whenever anyone asks her for help, she has to help them. So in the second book, they've pretty much had to go to this woman's castle, kingdom. I don't know why I can never remember the right words to describe things. Holding Anyway, there's this woman and we're also getting her perspective, and there's something in the tower on her land that like every day at sunup until sundown will like scream and cry, and it has like a really devastating mental effect on anyone that hears it. And so Blackthorn and Grim have ended up kind of trying to go and solve this mystery. So Juliet Marillier's stories often have like a real storytelling element to them, and this is one of them. The tower obviously has some kind of parallels, like it's a tower surrounded by thorns, so there's some kind of parallels to like Sleeping Beauty type mythology, but I feel like there's more going on. There has already been some little people running around doing things perhaps involved or at least knowing what's going on. It's also very clear right from the first chapter that this woman who's asked for help actually has some kind of secrets going on, and that maybe what she's asking isn't what she actually wants. I'm also expecting in this to get a lot of Blackthorn and Grimm's like backstory, especially Grimm's backstory, which I'm really looking forward to. Like, these books are so emotional. I just love the characters and the way that they handle situations. But also, these are kind of fantasy romance, and normally I don't really like romance, but it's with Blackthorn and Grimm, it's more like they're just slowly building trust and forming this real close bond, but it's not necessarily romantic yet. Will it get there? I think so. But actually the romances in these books tend to be like the side stories. Well, kind of the main story, but the side characters, I guess. In the first book, it was the prince and this princess. And then in this one, I think it's going to be that lady and something to do with whatever's going on in the tower. But we'll see. Anyway, I'm halfway through that. So I went for a run this morning. Probably be a couple of days until I make any more progress on that. I have just realised this is a New Zealand author, and so is Juliet Marillier. So 2 New Zealand authors in this vlog. Nice work. Actually, this is a New Zealand author too. So if I could get to some of this, then we'd have 3. And maybe that'll balance out the fact that I'm trying to be Americanish in my theming of my reading, even though this is definitely not America. Thank goodness. Okay, so last night I only managed to get 60 pages into this, so 4 chapters, mainly because I didn't pick it up until just before bed and I went to bed kind of late, so I didn't have that much reading time. Like, I think this will actually read very quickly. And actually, I just went and got a vaccine in each arm. So my plan for the day is just to like relax and let my very useless immune system try and work out what it's doing with those. And so hopefully I can get through all of this. I don't think it will take me that long. But also, partially because this is much better written than I thought it would be. I kind of was expecting it to be a little bit terrible because it is so old, and also that it is kind of targeted at a younger audience. And I think, like, along with point thrillers, when I was a teen, I really loved Christopher Pike books. And I haven't gone back and read a lot, but I have read a couple more recently, and I was like, these are not as good as I remembered. But this, better than I remembered. The writing is really great at like kind of setting up this sense of foreboding and darkness while also just like telling the story. Like, I love the way that it's describing things, and like so quickly it managed to make the characters feel fully fleshed out. Like, we've got a really clear idea of these different teenagers as well as these adults that they're staying with, which are awful, I will say. So they're staying with the high school principal and his wife who own this inn. And the way the wife is described is very fat-phobic. And at first I was thinking, oh, it's doing that thing that a lot of children's books do where they kind of equate fatness and ugliness with evilness. But I did appreciate that the husband, the principal, he is like very handsome and everyone thinks he's really kind. So I kind of like in the end that it is kind of showing those 2 contrasts. But also, like, what I didn't remember from the first time, I think I've read this twice before and I don't really remember picking up on like how messed up Anya is. So the 4 teens from the island that are boarding on the mainland, we've got Anya, who I think is one of the oldest, and Christina sees her as just like beautiful and romantic. But like, she is really unstable, mentally unstable, and I don't think I picked up on that previously, but she's like so terrified constantly of being drowned, even though she's been raised on an island, so that doesn't really make sense why she would have that fear, and just like some of the ways she's reacting seem a little bit unhinged, but it's really helping to set the atmosphere. Then we've also got these two teenage boys who are very like reliable and stable, and then Christina, who is so like sure of herself and confident. And I think part of, with this being a reread, like knowing how that's going to be undermined throughout the series, it's kind of awful to watch, but also like really does give you those horror feelings. But it is also setting Christina up as someone who like loves to exaggerate. So then again, on a reread, I know how that's going to kind of work against her. But also, I think it kind of almost makes you think that she's overreacting to some things, even though eventually she will not be overreacting. Anyway, I'm now very excited to continue this. I did also, when I first woke up this morning, read a couple of chapters of the Dawnhounds. To be honest, I'm not enjoying the writing in this as much. For starters, those two chapters, both chapters were very long. I'm not really a fan of long chapters, especially when I didn't really feel like, well, the first chapter definitely had a lot of direction. Was pretty much what I said in my intro. But then we're introduced to this woman who like used to be homeless. Now she's a cop, but it seems like she's doing very badly, both like in her career and just like mentally. And as well, there's like a lot of world building in here about these two countries that are at war and this revolution. And it's a lot. I really have not managed to like put it all together properly in my head. And it's definitely really interesting. Like there's a lot of really cool ideas that have been introduced. There's also these people who are blanks. So they like use alchemy to like take away their consciousness and basically like program them to just do certain tasks. Like there's been a lot of cool things introduced, but it's like so much. And I don't have any direction. Like I think I'm 15% of the way through this already, and I still don't really know what's even happening, which I don't particularly appreciate. I think, as I said in my last vlog, I'm a little bit impatient when books aren't telling me what's happening straight away at the moment. But I am really enjoying all the New Zealand slang in here. That is enjoyable. So I guess that's the element you could compare it to Gideon the Ninth with. Anyway, I will read some more of this, but I'm much more excited about just sitting down and relaxing and reading this. Okay, so I'm excited because my mirror has shown up. I'm planning to put it up at the top of this bookshelf and make this like my makeup and pretty stuff. And also I've got DVDs down here, make those shelves kind of like a pretty nice area. I do need to clear stuff off a bit and work out exactly where we're putting this. But bonus is that this was quite cheap and it still kind of fits what I wanted. But mostly that's a task for tomorrow. Today, I did manage to finish off The Fog, and I really liked it. Like, I'm thinking of giving it 4.5 stars, and I don't know if that's just nostalgia, but I really liked it. I just think it had such amazing atmosphere, and it kind of also manages to be like a very psychological horror. And maybe it's because it's a teen horror that it almost makes it more relatable as well. Like, actually the horror in this is the ease with which an adult can like completely ruin a teenager's life. Like, absolutely awful. And I just absolutely awful, but I had a great time reading it. That's the problem with talking about horror. But also, I had thought that this ended in a particular way, but it doesn't. It ends much more in a cliffhanger way. So I will be moving straight on to The Snow. I keep forgetting which book came next in the series, but it's The Snow. And I remember a few things about The Snow. And since it didn't happen in this one, I'm pretty sure the ending I thought was this one must be this one. Because then there's another book. Because there's an ending that's like a fake ending. I know it's a fake ending, so it must be the end of this one. This one actually feels thinner. Yeah, it's less than 200 pages, so it shouldn't take me that long to read it. Hopefully, I will love it just as much. It is pouring with rain outside, and I was about to try and film like a book series review, and now I'm trying to decide if that isn't very smart. But I think my mic probably isn't picking it up. This is my test clip, I guess. So let's talk about reading. This, I'm about 2/3, let's say, of the way through. I am still enjoying this. There is still some really great lines. It's maybe not quite as atmospheric Maybe it's that it's a little bit less focused than the previous book. And I think as well, like Christina's doing a few more like borderline things, like her decision making. Like it's honestly, it's reasonable because of everything that's happening to her that she would be acting out and like trying to defend herself. But you can definitely see she does things and you're like, Christina, that is going to make things worse. Honestly, I think the weather keeps getting worse and worse. But let's not get distracted. Anyway, this, I've got about dangerous bookmarks. I've got about 70 pages left, so I will definitely finish this off tonight and then let you know my thoughts. As well, this morning I did read another chapter of The Dawnhounds. Basically, our main character, this cop, has gone off with this other cop to something that doesn't seem fully above board the way he raised it with her, but also she's somehow seeing this as an opportunity to get back in the good books of the leadership and somehow fix her career. And I think I've worked out there's two main things about this that is annoying me. One is the world building and the way it's all just jumbled in and so unfocused. Did I just say unfocused with this one? Unfocused with this one as well. It just feels a lot like random things are happening and random ideas are being explained to me without really any structure to help me get grounded in the story. And that really fits in with the main character. I think my problem is she's one of these characters where she's just kind of letting things happen to her. She doesn't really seem to ever have any of her own, she doesn't ever seem to really make decisions, really. She's just going along with things. And she's unhappy with her situation, but just waiting for things to somehow change, even though she's not doing anything to change it. I just don't like characters that aren't actively participating in their story. I don't like characters that are just going along with things. It's really contributing to that idea that this doesn't have any structure or momentum. It's just things are randomly happening and things are randomly being told to me. But where is the structure? I will say there was one chapter where it was all very strange. It seemed like it was a message from somewhere out of time. There was a hint of gods and greatness, but that was just a few pages. Where is that in the rest of the story? I'm missing it. But I'm still hoping this will improve, so I guess we'll see with that. So I had planned this morning to go for a run so that I could make some more progress on Tower of Thorns, but unfortunately I woke up feeling crap. So I've decided not to do that. Well, the weather was crap as well, but I'm a bit sad that I haven't managed to find more time for Tower of Thorns. I don't think I've read any for a few days, but maybe tomorrow. What I have done is I finished off The Snow, and this did end like the ending I was expecting. And I definitely enjoyed this. I was surprised because I started thinking when we were 20 pages from the end, I was like, is this going to end how I think? But it kind of squished so much into the ending. And throughout this, there is a lot of action. And Christina is on a roller coaster of emotions as well. It's always something really terrible happens and she's like, oh no, I'm not going to win. And then she'll manage to overcome something that these teachers are doing to her and she'll be on a high and then she comes crashing down again. But I think part of that just made everything that was happening feel very incohesive. And instead of it kind of building on itself, building in intensity, it just felt a little bit up and down. So I still really enjoyed this. I think I'm giving it 4 stars. That is almost definitely a little bit of nostalgia in that rating, but we'll allow it. I am now going to move on directly to the fire, which I know ends very intensely. So I'm very excited to see what happens because I feel like almost everything I remember already happened in the previous books. There's a couple of things I remember, so I'm sure they'll be in here. And since I was feeling crappy, I haven't actually read anything of anything else. Oh, and also we didn't put the mirror up because I realized I want to try and get the lighting sorted and know what I'm going to change the lighting fixture above it, and I want to get that sorted out before I place the mirror to know kind of the heights of everything and get all the holes in the walls correct. So probably that's going to have to wait till next week when we can go to a bigger town because there's nothing in stock in our town. But there's no hurry anyway. And all I want to do for now is read this. Okay, so I am about to go outside and do a bunch of housework, including some gardening. I always thought I was terrible with flowers and plants, but I think I've realized the trick is just not to be afraid of plants dying. Anyway, I'm terrible with plants, but I'm going to try and do some gardening for fun. And while I do that, I'm going to continue listening to Tower of Thorns. I did go for a run actually a couple of days ago, and I haven't updated you since then because it's that time of the month and I was just feeling crap, and so the last couple of days just don't really count. But while I was reading Tower of Thorns, I cried a little bit. It was so emotional, and it's really Grimm's backstory that's pulling me into the story. There's still a lot of mystery about this Tower of Thorns and what's happening there. Some of it's been revealed, but I think there's still some mysteries to be revealed. And that bit of the story is okay, but it's a little bit drawn out. It's really Grimm's backstory that I love, just so emotional. Anyway, as well, I did manage to finish The Fire, so I've read all 3 of these books now. This was the worst book in the series. Oh, that lighting's a bit funny, isn't it? Because of the backlighting. Whatever. So this one I gave 5 stars. This one I think I gave 4. This one is probably a 3, maybe even a 2.5. It just felt very all over the place. It started out promising. It starts out with the idea that there's only a few more weeks left of school, and the teachers that have been terrorizing Christina are going to move to a new school the next year. So it kind of gives you this short period of time where Christina thinks, well, I just have to survive a few weeks. How hard would that be? I've survived all year. But the teachers are like, well, we've still got 3 weeks. But there's a bunch of romance stuff that felt very inconsistent to the characters. Some really questionable decisions, that the kind of decision that whenever they're in a YA book, I'm like, are we encouraging teens to do the wrong thing here? And then it was all kind of rushed at the end, the way that it came together. And I don't think as well that it was as atmospheric. The fog was still the most amazing in terms of atmosphere, and it felt the most cohesive in terms of plot. There was kind of just too many things going on. So I'm glad that I've had a nostalgic time and reread this series, but I definitely enjoyed The Fog the best, which I guess this is the one I recently purchased and spent more money on than I should have, and given I loved it the most, that's good, I guess. The only other thing I should have read is The Dawnhounds. I haven't read any of this. I just haven't felt, well, I've been tired in the morning, which is mostly when I read ebooks, but also I just haven't felt any draw towards this. And I feel like normally I would DNF it, but because it's a New Zealand author, I want to give it more of a chance. So I'm conflicted between whether I should try to force myself to try and read some more of this later today, or whether I should start Spectyr. And in the moment, I still can't make a decision. We'll see after I've done all my gardening and listened to some more of Tower of Thorns which way I go. And then maybe my next update will be the last one of the vlog. We'll see. Hello. So I did not end up doing my gardening yesterday because by the time I hung out the washing, I started feeling really sick, and it's that time of the month, and my body said, nah. So now as well, the weather's turning crap. So I guess the gardening will wait for a slightly better day. But I did finish off listening to Tower of Thorns. The ending was very dramatic. There were some surprises. It was all very satisfying, and I really I think the strength of the second book is the journey that Grimm went on throughout this book. I think Blackthorn's story and even the story of the tower weren't as good as Grimm's story. Grimm's story was so solid, and the development that he went through. And then the ending was very, I don't want to spoil it, but the tower was a little bit more of a Rapunzel type tower in some ways. And at the end, Blackthorn and Grimm are still kind of denying that they're in love, but they're in love. But I love a slow burn romance, so I love it so much. So next month I will be finishing that trilogy off and I'm very excited about it. I haven't read any more of this. I have not motivated myself to pick it up at all. I did though pick up Spectyr and read about 50 pages of it. Actually, what I was doing for the first few chapters, I don't know if this was weird, but I had my phone in front of me with the stopwatch and I was recording how long it was taking me to read a chapter and also pushing the lap button at the end of every page. And so this book, even though it's quite a small book, the font is quite small. And so it's actually taking me about a minute and a half to read each page because of the font size, but also because the writing is just not quite good. Better than the Dawnhounds, because this I couldn't really, I don't know what I'm doing with that book. But this, like, the story is actually really interesting. Did I explain it before? It's kind of like a magical world where these ghosts come through from the other side and our main characters are the people who protect people from the other side. So the story is interesting, but the writing is just kind of a little bit clunky in a way where, especially when a lot of things are happening, I feel like I have to go really slow to actually pick up on what's happening. And definitely when I was reading this, so I read the last chapter that I read without the timer, and when I was doing that, I found it really easy to just like get tired, I guess, of like having to pass things so carefully. And then I would like wander off and think about something else. So the last chapter went slower, but reading the earlier chapters with the timer, I think kind of forced me to be more focused because I'm like, oh, I'm being timed, so I better not do something else because that'll ruin the statistics. So then I'm wondering, is this a reading strategy? Could I keep it up or will it eventually stop working? I'm not sure, but I might try it for the rest of this book. Actually, what I also started doing with this book is at the end of the chapter, making a little note about what had happened in that chapter in my Notion app. And I feel like that is also helping me to like hold everything in my head a little bit better. And I've thought of doing that before and I've never, for some reason, ever been able to make myself do it. But I don't know, it was working with this, so I might try that more in my next vlog, both those tricks maybe. Anyway, I think, I don't know, I didn't do very good at fall reading. I guess I started this, which is a ghosty book. I didn't make much progress at all on the mushroom book. The fairy tale, like wise woman in the forest vibes book, I did really like it. And then this trilogy obviously was a mixed bag. I love the beginning of it, the ending of it. Not as strong, but the nostalgia did carry me through. Anyway, that's going to be the end of this vlog. So let me know. That book's on the floor now. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what you think about them. I'd love to chat with you about them down in the comments. Or let me know if you've been reading anything really great lately. Do subscribe if you'd like to see more of my bookish videos. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.